Welcome to Don't Chuck It Up, the podcast that takes the stress out of the college search and application process. I'm your host, Chuck, your friendly college counselor. Today, I want to share 3 important things that students and families need to know before they head out on their college visits. So it's springtime, and a lot of students and families are planning to go visit some colleges and universities, whether your student is admitted and you're doing your final visit to the campus, or maybe your student is a junior or a sophomore and you're just getting started. Well, I recently just got back from touring a wide variety of colleges in Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia, and I noticed a few things that I want to share with you. So today, I want to share 3 key things that you need to make sure you are doing when you go on a college campus visit. So as I was touring these various colleges, I was observing the students and the families that were on these tours. So when I visit, I don't always reserve a tour just for myself. I prefer to go around with other students and families so I can see what they're asking and what they're doing on their campus visits. And there are 3 things that I definitely notice, and I want to make sure that you all are aware of them so that you don't do them, to make sure you don't make these mistakes. The biggest issue I saw at all of the campuses I visited, and I went to big schools, small private schools, medium schools, I noticed one big issue. Families and students were arriving late. I think what happens is that students and families aren't aware that college campuses are big, and sometimes the parking for your visit isn't right next to the building where you need to start your campus visit. And families are obviously new to the area. Many are not coming to a college that's right in their backyard, so they're traveling from far away, and they are not planning for travel, driving time, parking. Maybe you need to use the restroom. Maybe you need to get that really strong cup of coffee because it's early in the morning. So let me give you a few tips. If the campus visit says that they start at 9 o'clock, that means that probably the information session or the campus tour is going to start right at 9. So I encourage my students and families to make sure you are on the college campus at least a half hour early. Now, I know that sounds a little bit ridiculous, but I have toured nearly 250 colleges and universities all across the country, and trust me, sometimes parking is a hassle, especially in the morning, because you are combating for parking with the current students, faculty, and staff who are also trying to get to the campus. So make sure you plan enough time so that you can get to the correct parking and then navigate your way through the campus to wherever the campus visit is going to start. You're going to want to make sure that you know the location. Some of the visits start at admissions, others start at a visitor center or a welcome center, and sometimes they even start at a random spot on campus because that's the space big enough. But during these last college visits that I did, I noticed so many students and families that were walking into the admissions presentation late. Now, it's just not good. It's rude to the person who is presenting, and also, you may have missed some information that you needed to know about that college by arriving late. I understand things happen. Maybe you weren't feeling well, or maybe you had car problems and you could arrive late. I'd get that. But when I toured 6 different colleges this last couple weeks, and at every college visit I went to, there was a family that was late. Every time. And they're always coming in, oh, sorry, excuse me. And I'm just going, don't apologize. Just get in there, sit down, and join the presentation. When you're in that presentation room, I encourage families to sit in the middle. Don't sit at the very edge of the chairs, because if those people do come in late, you want a spot for them to be able to slide right in and join the presentation currently in progress. So if you want to be a really nice person, if you get there early, you can, get a bottle of water, you can use the restroom, you can find a good seat in the information presentation space, and then sit towards the middle so that people who are arriving later can sit next to you. So that is tip number 1. Please arrive early for your campus visit. And side note, make sure you're planning enough time for the entire visit, because all of these visits ran late because people were arriving late, and that made the tour run late. So I was going to be late to several of these campus visits because families were arriving late, and that's not good either. Tip number two, and this was a bit of an embarrassing story for a couple students on the visit, is make sure you pay attention to what you are wearing on your campus visit. So let me share a story with you. I was touring a very selective private liberal arts college, a college that admits around 10% of their applicant pool. They are very selective and they're very particular as to who they are recruiting and who they are admitting. And students and parents often ask me, how can I best, put myself out there for these colleges and universities that are highly selective? Well, let me tell you what not to do, which is what I literally witnessed on this campus tour. So there were several tours that day because it was a day off from school. Spring break was already happening in certain parts of the country. And so there were 5 different tour groups that went out. And I was on one of the tour groups, and I could see the other tours that were going along as well. As we were walking across the campus, enjoying the lovely spring day, the president of the university happened to be walking towards our tour groups. So we're all in little groups of 10 to 12 people kind of going along. Our tour guide is walking backwards. The tour guide for my group turned around and was like, oh my gosh, that is the president of the university. I've never met him. This is amazing. This is exciting. She was totally fangirling, and it was kind of amazing. So the president walked by our group and then proceeded to interact with us, say hello, welcome to campus, and then went to go interact with the other tour groups that were behind us. What I noticed, though, is that the president stopped one of the tour groups, and one of my friends happened to be in that tour group and shared the story with me as to why the president stopped the tour group. You see, there were 2 students in that tour group that were wearing college gear from other colleges. In fact, they were wearing clothing from rival colleges. In fact, they were wearing clothing from rival colleges, and the president called them out. Basically, the president said, you're touring our school. Why are you wearing gear from XYZ University, which is one of our rivals? Let me tell you, those students were very embarrassed, and the family was very embarrassed. So my tip number 2 is be careful with what you wear. If you are going to go tour a college, don't wear any college gear. I know a lot of it is very fashionable. Right now, we are in the middle of March Madness, so a lot of students are wearing college gear because it's really cool to represent a college and to support a school. But when you're touring a college, don't wear college clothing from any other college. And you don't have to wear college gear from that particular college unless you are already committed and you're planning to go. Then feel free and deck yourself out in their own gear. It always looks really cool. When I worked in admissions, I often noticed when students were wearing, shall I say, inappropriate clothing, whether it's gear from another college or on one tour I saw this last couple weeks there were students that looked like they literally rolled out of bed and went on the campus tour. This is your chance, students and parents, to make an impression on admissions. I'm not saying that you have to wear your Sunday best or wear like you're going out to a fancy dinner, but pay attention to the way you look because that is how you are representing yourself on these campus visits. You better believe that when I was in admissions and I met with a student or a family, which, by the way, most colleges do give students some type of a name tag so we know who you are. If I noticed that a student was kind of looking a bit disheveled or maybe wasn't quite ready or not awake, I would put in my notes when I interacted with that student or afterwards saying like, okay, this student was wearing the rival college gear or wearing something that I didn't think was very appropriate. The other thing, students and parents, wear appropriate shoes. You're going to be going on a campus tour. Don't wear your 5-inch stilettos unless that's really comfortable for you and you can walk around campus in something like that. There was one student we were touring a very large public university. There was one student that I interacted with during my tour of a very large public university, one of the popular ones out there, and the student was wearing clearly very uncomfortable flip-flops. And the campus tour was 90 minutes long, and we were only about halfway through the campus tour, and the student was complaining about their feet. How long is this tour going to last? When is it going to be over? My feet are killing me. And verbally saying this to her parent. And so it was really kind of annoying me hearing them complain about footwear for most of the tour. So when you go on these campus tours, pay attention to what you're wearing, pay attention to your footwear. Again, you don't have to dress like school pictures, but you do want to make a good representation for yourself. Also, dress in layers. A lot of times an information session room might be really cold or really hot, so you may want to have a jacket or a zip up of some sort so that you can dress in layers and be appropriate for it. And if it's going to rain, bring an umbrella because we are going to be outside walking, and there was several people on our very rainy tour that did not have the appropriate rain gear for that campus tour experience. So make sure you're wearing the appropriate clothing when you're touring colleges, and it's always best to dress up a little bit, so that you make a good impression. The last tip that I want to give students and parents is critical. This is the one that, as a former tour guide, I bring this up. As a former campus visit coordinator, I bring this up. As a former admissions officer, I beg and plead with you. Make sure you have questions to ask when you are visiting the campus. Now, on one of the campus tours, the tour guides were absolutely great. They assembled us after we were kind of sectioned off into our various groups, and the tour guides literally said, "Hey, how do you think we get paid? Do you think we get paid by how many tours we give or how many students that we interact with?" And they said, "No, we get paid by how many questions you ask us." Now, is that true? Probably not. But it made the students and the parents perk up and pay attention. One of the reasons you are going to go visit these colleges and universities is to learn about the student experience. So students, you need to be comfortable with asking questions while you are on tour. At every stop along a campus tour, the tour guides will say their little spiel, point out something that's interesting where they're standing, and then they will say, "Any questions?" And that awkward silence can last a million years, it feels like. So have some questions ready. Maybe you ask the student something about, what was your favorite experience in this location? So if you're in the campus center, you might say, what is your favorite thing to do here in the campus center? What did you do on campus last weekend? What is the most popular tradition that you have attended on campus that you really enjoyed? Tell me about an interaction that you had with a professor that was memorable. What have you been planning to do in the next coming years? How has it been doing your class schedule as a college student versus when you were in high school? What is something that you wish that you knew now as a current student that you would want to tell your high school self? Ask them questions that help you learn more about their experience. The same thing is true at the information session with the admissions counselor. Admissions counselors will take you through typically a 30-minute presentation information session, giving you the nuts and bolts about the university, how to apply, scholarships, financial aid. Parents, this is a great time for you to ask your questions. Maybe you have something particular that you want to know about scholarships and financial aid. Now, any question that you should ask while you are visiting a campus should not be easily answered on the website. So, for example, parents, don't ask, are there scholarships available? That is something that you can learn from the website. Instead, you can say, I looked at your website and noticed that you offer scholarships for students who are applying to this college. Can you help me understand the scholarship application and selection process, and what do we need to do to be prepared for that? That is a question that may not be totally flushed out on a website and a great way to learn more about it. Or parents may ask, can you help me understand the timeline for applying for financial aid from your university? Or what is the application and selection process for housing, and what dates should we be aware of to make sure that our student has the best opportunity for housing? Again, I'm asking questions that may not be as easily found on the website, or I might ask something about what's going on here in town. My favorite thing, and I wish students and parents would ask, is when you're meeting with the tour guide or meeting with an admissions counselor, ask them about the city, town, or location where the college is. You may say, After our visit, we are planning on going out to lunch or out to dinner. Do you recommend somewhere on campus or off campus that we could explore for our next meal? Or we're staying in the area for the next 24 hours. What are things that we could be doing while we are visiting your area? You can even ask that question if you're not planning to stay, because you might learn some fun things that you could be doing during a future visit, or something to do if your student decides to attend that college or university. But basically, you should have some questions prepared. These can be on your phone, they can be on a piece of paper, whatever it may be, so you don't forget them. But students, you should prepare 5 or 6 questions that you can be asking a tour guide or an admissions counselor. Same thing for parents. Come up with a few questions that you want to know. Maybe they're the same questions that you ask every college that you visit, so you can compare the answers. Again, try to avoid questions that are easily answerable from the website. So as I said, I have toured a bunch of different colleges and universities. I've noticed these 3 big mistakes over and over and over again, so I hope that you take time to prepare for these. Number 1, make sure that you arrive early for your campus visit. That will make sure that you find the right place to park, go to start your campus tour, maybe get a beverage or a restroom break before the information session and the tour happens. But if you want to make a great impression from the get-go, make sure you arrive for your campus visit early. Number 2, before you get on campus, make sure that you are wearing appropriate clothing for your campus visit. That means everything from your hat to your coat to your shoes, everything should be something that is going to represent you in the best way possible. No, you don't have to be super dressed up. Wear something comfortable, but appropriate to make a good impression. And number 3, have those questions ready. Every time you interact with someone on that college or university, they may say, "Do you have any questions?" And you can ask questions. And again, you can ask the same question of different people to see if they give you the same or different answers. But the worst thing possible you can do is that when a tour guide or an admissions counselor says, "Do you have any questions?" and you just sit there blank. You don't have to have a question every time, but you should be asking some questions while you're on the campus, because that's the whole reason why you're visiting. So make sure that you have some questions ready to go. I hope these tips have been helpful for you. If this episode has provided some new information for you or you've really enjoyed it, make sure that you like it, comment it, share with your friends, and help me get the word out so that I can help more students and families. I'm doing this from my own background and my own experience because I want to make sure that more students and families understand the college search and the application process. I'm here to help, so spread the word about Don't Chuck It Up. Thanks for listening to Don't Chuck It Up. Subscribe for more college admissions guidance, and I'll be back next week. Until then, remember, don't chuck it up.
Don't chuck